shadow that followed me home. In the shadowed silence of Silverwood Forest, tales of eerie mysteries hung heavy in the air, whispered in hushed tones by locals who dared not venture in after nightfall. Eleanor James, a young woman with a sharp wit and a thirst for adventure, had heard these stories her entire life, brushing them off as small-town superstitions. But tonight, after a dare from friends, she decided to test her courage. With her flashlight and her phone's recording app ready, she ventured into Silverwood alone. The forest, dense and dark, held a stillness that went beyond nature's usual quiet. Every step she took seemed to echo, and each rustle or distant snap of a twig heightened her nerves. Eleanor couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't alone, but she pushed forward, determined to disprove the old stories. About an hour into her exploration, Eleanor saw something that made her heart skip a beat. Among the trees, a shadowy figure stood motionless, just far enough away to blur its features, but close enough for her to make out its outline. Tall and dark, it had no face, just an inky blackness that seemed to absorb all light around it. She blinked, and the shadow was gone. But as she turned to head back, she felt a weight on her chest, as though the forest was pressing its secrets upon her. That night, Eleanor returned home and tried to shake off the unsettling experience, telling herself it was just her imagination. But as she drifted to sleep, she sensed a presence lurking, just beyond her bedroom door. She turned on every light in her house, feeling silly, but unable to shake the image of the shadow from her mind. She decided to ignore it until the following night, when it happened again. Each night, the shadow returned, closer and closer. It appeared in the mirror's reflection, stood at the foot of her bed, or watched her from the hallway. Sometimes it seemed to whisper her name in a voice that was almost human, but filled with a dark, hollow echo that sent shivers down her spine. Eleanor could barely sleep, her mind consumed by fear, her home no longer a sanctuary, but a prison. Desperate, she began to research Silverwood Forest and its secrets, uncovering tales of a curses dating back hundreds of years. Legend spoke of an ancient ritual gone wrong, of souls bound to the forest, unable to rest, cursed to wander in search of the one who would finally release them. But these shadows could only latch on to those who entered the forest after sunset, trespassers who would unknowingly become linked to them. Eleanor felt a chill. She had been in the forest after dark. In her research, Eleanor found a glimmer of hope, a way to end the curse. The ritual required an offering, something deeply meaningful to the one seeking freedom, something with personal significance. Determined, Eleanor decided she would return to the forest and end this haunting. Under the cover of night, she retraced her steps back into Silverwood, clutching a silver locket that had belonged to her mother. This was the only thing left of her mother, a piece of her heart, and the thought of giving it up filled her with sorrow. She reached the spot where she had first seen the shadow and knelt down, feeling the dark energy pulse around her. As she held out the locket, a cold breeze swept through the trees, and she heard voices, whispers filled with anguish, pleading, crying. The shadow emerged from the darkness, closer than ever, its featureless face inches from her. She whispered, "Take this, take it and leave me." For a moment, there was only silence, an emptiness that stretched unbearably. Then slowly, the shadow reached out and took the locket. Eleanor felt a weight lift from her chest, a sudden rush of air. And then, nothing. The forest went still, the shadows retreated, and for the first time in weeks, she felt a sense of peace. Eleanor returned home, exhausted but relieved, hoping the nightmare was finally over. She slept soundly for the first time in days. But as dawn broke and light filled her room, she noticed something unsettling. Her mother's locket was on her nightstand, its silver chain coiled neatly as though it had never left. Her heart sank. In the reflection of the locket, she saw it, a shadow just behind her, closer than ever before. And as she turned, she realized the truth she had missed all along. Once you take the forest shadow home, it never truly leaves. Thank you for joining me in the shadows. If you enjoyed the journey, please subscribe and share a creepy Vault 45 with friends, because some chills are best when we're not alone.